Hi guys, we're gonna do political revolutions right now because bye. Sorry. Alright. So, I haven't made a video in a while because I was in Florida, so yeah. Now we're going to do political revolutions, and this is between 1600s and the 1800s AD. And I kind of already started reading it, so I'll just catch you up where I am right now. Alright, so this is basically about the conflict between kings and parliament. Parliament is kind of like the Senate or the Congress. It's kind of how we describe it in our terms today. Basically, king is here, parliament's here. They're at the same position. So, I mean, if king was here and parliament was here, king would win. But they were at equal balance, more power. And the revolution started when Queen Elizabeth I died. She was the last one of the Tudor kings, and a distant relative, James, right? Yeah, James I from Scotland became James I of England. So all the Tudor kings, King Henry VII, Queen Mary I, and Queen Elizabeth I, all ruled under Parliament. So before they did anything, they would go to Parliament. Parliament would discuss it, say, yes, we should do this, no, we shouldn't do this, and that's how they would go through it. Sort of like an obstacle. They have to pass through Parliament in order to get to the goal. James, however, did not do that at all. He said, Parliament is nothing, I'm not going to listen to Parliament, Parliament's gone. So he did his own way, and the people, and of course Parliament, were very upset. So, as I continue, James I ruled without parliament or a legislator for 10 years, which is a big wow during that time. And then not only had political power became a huge thing, so did religious differences. And this is where it really made a huge difference in Europe times. The king wanted to force Anglican Church on the people. Now the people, who were many members of parliament, and also the citizens were Puritan, which meant that they wanted to be able to worship as they pleased. But, so James I realized this. He doesn't want his people that mad at him. So, he still wants it his way, though. Remember that. And what they did is, he had an idea for a new translation of the Bible. He appointed a committee of church officials who put together the King James Version. It greatly influenced not only English speech and literature, but it is still used today. So it was a huge dramatic change. Then when James I died in 1625, Parliament thought, alright, we're going to get a new king or queen, which would be actually King James's son, and Parliament found a way to get in and make Charles realize that Parliament is also important. Here comes Charles I that says, no, I'm going to do everything the way that my dad did. So Parliament is once again really upset. So are the people, because here comes a new chance and it doesn't work. Of course they had a 50-50 shot, but they lost it. Alright, so in 1628, Charles I was forced to call a meeting of Parliament to approve new taxes to pay for wars with France and Spain. Parliament found a chance to limit the king's power, so they set up a petition of right. This said that he could not declare martial law, and a martial law is a rule by the army instead of by law. And it also said that the king could not pass tax laws without Parliament's consent. In addition, people could not be put into prison just because the king wanted them out of the way. So at first, Charles I was like, yeah, okay, this isn't that bad, I'll agree to it. And then he just went against it. He broke his word and he dismissed Parliament. So dismissing Parliament said, goodbye, you're out of the picture, alright, I'm in the frame now, everyone's going to focus on me. And that's how it was for about 12 years. Then in 1640, Charles needed money to build a larger army to fight the Scots. So he had tried to force the Anglican Church on the, Presbyterian Scots, and they had revolted, taking over part of northern England. So he called a meeting of Parliament. So he hates Parliament, but when he needs Parliament, he drags it back in. And Parliament again saw a chance to limit Charles' power. And it passed a law abolishing taxes collected by the crown without Parliament's consent. It also passed a law to set up regular meetings of Parliament and to do away with the Star Chamber. This was a royal court that tried people without a jury. Alright, now we're going to start with the Civil War. I haven't read this far, so I'm basically just going to read it and then review kind of each 2 paragraphs or something. Alright, so this is the Civil War. Once again, Charles I accepted the laws of Parliament, passed, and then disregarded them. In 1642, civil war broke out between the Crown and Parliament, which is the highest classes are fighting, and all the citizens who are lower class don't know what to do because they have to listen to these guys up here, and these guys are fighting. So, those who backed the Crown were called Cavaliers, and they wore their hair shoulder length, often curled. They were mostly rich Roman Catholics and Anglicans. Those who backed Parliament were called Roundheads because they wore their hair short, kind of like coconut, I guess. They were mostly middle and lower class Puritans and other Calvinists. Oliver Cromwell, a Puritan leader who backed Parliament, formed a new model army. It drilled hard and followed strict rules against drinking, swearing, and robbing. It chose its officers because they were good fighters and leaders, not because they were of high birth, which is how they wanted to do the kings also, because the relatives might not be good, but the people who know what they're doing, they will be good. Sort of like the elections that we have today. Whoever's the best wins. George Bush's daughter won't become president because she was the president's daughter. It's whoever goes and wins. So that's the right way to do it. And that's how these people who are for Parliament, that's what they're trying to do. But of course, Charles I wants to be in power, so he's against it. And most English leaders still believe that monarchy was the best form of government. They did not, however, trust Charles I and were afraid to allow him to return to the throne. Cromwell and his supporters put Charles I on trial for treason. The court found him guilty and he was beheaded in 1649. So he ruled for about, 21 years. Right? Alright, so now we're going to talk about Oliver Cromwell because he made a huge difference. Actually, I can read you about, okay, because we don't have a lot of time. Alright, after the king's death, Cromwell took over the rule of England, now called the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth was overwhelmed with troubles from the start. The Irish and the Scots both looked to Charles I's son as a true ruler of England. Cromwell had to put down their rebellion. He also had trouble balancing the English, who felt enough changes had been made, with those who wanted more. He finally did away with Parliament and governed as a military dictator for the Puritan minority. I can only know. Alright, so I guess what they're trying to say here is when Charles I died, Cromwell took over, and Cromwell was the one who had the idea that we shouldn't do by birth, we should do by whoever is the best one. And so the Irish and the Scots both looked at Charles I's son as a true ruler of England. And so right now Cromwell's ruling, and Charles' son says, no, I'm going to be king, and the Irish and the Scots agree with him. And so he finally did away with Parliament and governed as a military dictator of the Puritan minority. Many Puritans were very strict. They disapproved of dancing, theater-going, sports, and other popular amusements. They believed people should spend their free time praying and reading the Bible. Despite this, Puritan rule was not completely gloomy. Cromwell himself was fond of music and horses, and allowed women to act on stage for the first time. After Cromwell died, his son Richard took over, and by 1660, however, Parliament decided that England again needed a monarch. So people finally get what they want, and the Parliament was like, nope, we're going back to monarchs. So that's what I'm going to do in my next video, The Return of the Stuarts, which was James's family. Alright, and then there's a Glorious Revolution, and then John Locke, who changed history completely also. So watch the next video. Thanks.